And we're live. Today, I'm joined by Bob Burg. This is another episode of the Blue Crocus Experience Podcast, and I'm really excited to have Bob Burg on. We're going to dive into a little bit about how his book changed the way that I look at business, at sales, at interactions in life. But before we get into that, Bob is an author. He's got a bunch of books out there. We initially connected through a mentor of mine, suggesting I read this book, The Go-Giver, which we're going to be talking about in detail today, and it changed my perspective on business, on life, etc. So Bob has co-authored this book with John David Mann, sold over 975,000 copies. So it's gotten out there, it's gotten around, and it's in a bunch of different languages. So Bob, I'm incredibly honored to have you on here today. We connected through Ken Walls.
Yep.
I saw you on there, and then I reached out to you in Messenger, and you were incredibly cordial and hooked me up with your scheduling committee and all of that. And so here we are today. So if you want to quickly introduce yourself from where you're from, and then we'll dive into kind of what brought Bob to where he is today, and give people a little background there.
Well, Bob Burg, originally from Massachusetts, but got down south to Florida as fast as I could, since I'm a wimp when it comes to the cold. And I love the warm weather. And I know up there in Canada, Lewis, you kind of have to have that cold a lot more often. So we welcome you to visit Florida whenever you want.
Yeah,
or in California or somewhere where it's warmer. But and I've just been, I started out in broadcasting, graduated into sales, and have been doing speaking and writing now for the past 30 years or so.
Amazing. And this is live. We have a lot of people live. So if anybody who's listening has a question for Bob, I have them come up here on the side of the screen, and I can pop those into our conversation. So anyone who's listening, feel free to ask away. So you started out in, obviously, up north, moved down. We're just starting to get above freezing weather here in Canada, so it's not quite Florida here yet, but we're getting there.
Well, make sure you get some hot Tim Hortons coffee and
gotta get the Timmy's in, right?
Yeah.
So you started out in broadcasting sales, if I remember correctly from your interview with Ken that I was listening to. I just listened to the one from 2018 that you did with him, and so you kind of started out in there, and you talk in there about how you started out in sales, and then you started reading some books, and I love books. You can see the books behind me. I've got these two on my desk right now that you've written, but bring us up to speed on kind of how the things that started to change your perspective on sales and providing value and whatnot.
Well, when I first got into sales, I knew nothing about it. I had never had any formal sales training, and the company I was with didn't provide any. So I was kind of on my own. And so I floundered for the first few months. I mean, I made a lot of calls, knocked on a lot of doors, talked to people, blah, 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 blah about my product. I mean, all the things that making a lot of calls and doing all that stuff is good. But the way I would try and sell was not very effective at all. I just figured if you're in sales, you're talking about your product. Obviously not the way that actually happens. Fortunately, one day I was in the bookstore and I saw a couple of books, one by Tom Hopkins and one by Zig Ziglar, two of the icons of the sales profession. And this is 40 years ago now, so back then you didn't see those all everywhere. I wasn't even aware that they were books on selling. It was totally. So I was so grateful to see them. So I got the books and I started devouring them. And every night I'd just study into the wee hours of the morning. And within a few weeks, my sales began to really go well, because now I had a methodology. I had a system, if you will, for being able to know how to effectively sell. So that was very helpful. But what was really cool was also learning that a big part of sales was about personal development. And so I started hearing about all these great books, Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, which was one of the first books I read after I, started to get into that. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, and David Schwartz's The Magic of Thinking Big, and Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and all these books that were really building me on the inside, because as we all know, success is an inside job. It begins on the inside, it manifests itself on the outside. And so again, I was doing fairly well and I was enjoying it, but about 2 years after that, I went to another company that was sold a high ticket item, and I didn't get off to a good start. In fact, I was really in a sales slump, and I was panicking and pressing and kind of back to thinking about myself, right? And how am I going to get out of the slump? And it was all about me, which is of course the exact opposite of what we need to be doing. And fortunately, there was a guy there at the company where I was working. He was not in the sales department. I think he was in the engineering department or something. And I don't even think he was there for much longer. I think he retired soon after. But he was he's a nice guy. Didn't say a whole lot, but he was one of these people who sort of, whenever he did say something, it was usually pretty profound. And I think he saw me as sort of that salesperson, like Joe in The Go-Giver, who I would, with John David Mann, write about 25 or 30 years after that. And he saw me as that kind of up and coming, young, ambitious, aggressive, worked hard, but was really not focused the right way. So was frustrated and not realizing his potential. And I'm glad he saw me that way and was willing to talk with me, because he said, Burg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Burg, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes, please do. I need it. And he said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money, and you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And that's really where it hit me, okay? That great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as those are. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about the lives of those people we are trying to touch. It's about other people's lives being better just because we are part of it. And I think when we approach sales from that frame, from that viewpoint, now we're 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
I love that. And that's something that, I mentioned briefly that the book changed, the perspective that I was having. I believe I read it in March of last year. Everything was happening. We all know what happened in March of last year. I was having to kind of pivot the way that I went about acquiring sales and acquiring new customers. And there was an element of desperation. Like I lost a lot of my present clients because they were local and they had to shut down their businesses, and they were like, we just can't keep paying for your services. Yeah. So my back was against the wall, and there was this element of desperation. There was this element of, I've got to, get the sale. I've just got to find someone that I can ram my ideas down their throat, and they'll give me some money, out the other end. Right. And one of my mentors suggested I read this book, and I read through it, I listened to the audiobook. And Joe's story really resonated. For those of you that don't have the book, definitely go get it. Where's the best place for people to get this, Bob?
Burg.com, B-U-R-G is the best place. If they scroll down to where it has the books listed, they can read chapter 1, I think, and an excerpt if they'd like to see if they like where it's headed. Then they can always click through to Amazon.
I love it. Yeah. So in reading this, we kind of follow Joe's journey, and like you said, the complete mental shift for me was, it's not about getting the sale. It's about providing value. It's and your
focus. It's that shift in focus, right? We move from I focus or B focus to an other focus.
It's huge.
Yeah. And, and that shift makes all the difference. We always say that shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving, we simply mean constantly, consistently providing immense value to others. That's your focus. That doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And not for some woo-woo way out there, magical, mystical reasons, right? It actually makes logical, rational sense. Because when you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and place it on others, helping them get what they want, what they need, what they desire, helping solve their challenges and problems, helping to bring them closer to happiness, well, people feel good about you, right? People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you if they need what you want, but they're definitely willing to and wanting to be your personal walking ambassador.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of, I'm halfway through this one, the Go Givers Sell More, and I've recommended it to a lot of people who are, learning selling, right? Because walk us through, you're in a conversation with someone and you think your product is, you firmly believe your product and service is the best out there. But in Go Givers Sell More, you talk about the fact that your product may not be the best fit for this person. So how does someone reconcile, their stuff being the best and they want everybody to buy it in the whole world and, all of that, right? Like at the back of our minds, that's ultimately the goal. But walk us through kind of that process and that paradigm shift.
Well, Lewis, I think it's first of all, it's very natural. It's human nature to believe most people who are in sales, entrepreneurs and in sales, they really believe in what they do. They believe in their product or service. Why wouldn't they? Why would they be involved with it if they didn't believe it? Most human beings are wanting to make a difference in the world. They're wanting to bring value to the world, to, as we like to say, as John and I say, nudge the world forward. And we express this through our business, right? Through our sales. So of course we do believe our product is the best. But here's the product or service is the best. Again, I don't mean we, but I mean any of us in
Sure.
sales. We do.
Sure.
That's why we're in it. So, but whether it's what that person needs right now, we don't know. Of course, it depends upon our product or service, and that's why the biggest thing is to ask questions and find out. The discovery aspect of the sales process is the most important aspect, okay? Because it's only at that point that we can even know if there's a match, okay, between the benefits of our product or service and what this person needs, wants, and desires. I mean, that's what, selling by definition is simply discovering what that person needs, wants, or desires and helping them to get it. Now, is our product or service the right fit? Well, if it is, then we're going to do our best to help them get it. If it's not, then we're not, because it's not or if the timing isn't correct or whatever it happens to be. So when we can, again, take our focus off of ourselves and even off of our product or service and focus on discovering if it's the best thing for them, that's where, that's where we're going to create that benevolent context for success, because that person knows, they understand that we have their best interest at heart.
And that's huge too from a service provider. I've like I said, I was in that sort of desperation zone of, okay, you've got to make the sale, you've got to feed my family, etc. Right? But in that headspace, I signed on some clients that were not a good fit for me. I wasn't a good fit for them. They weren't a good fit for me. Huge energy drain on both of our parts. There's emails back and forth, phone calls back and forth, and so it really resonated with me that you kind of put into words. There's that discovery process. You've got to figure out if you are a good fit for what they need. So I love that.
Yeah, and in a situation where that you do have an issue where you really need the money right now. Okay, you need these sales to take place. You need this to happen. That's where the real paradox sets in, because at that particular place, you need to be able to, and I don't want to say deny your self-interest, because first of all, as human beings, we are self-interested creatures. Okay, that's how we've survived since the cave person days. We do things, even the antibodies within our system, they're self-interested. They're fighting off disease. They're keeping us right. So let's not deny our self-interest. Okay, that we don't need to do that. But what we can do is we can suspend our self-interest.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and that's what is so important to do, because and let's look at it if someone has an issue with that, thinking, well, how would that work? How would that be helpful? Let's walk through it. Let's say you have a potential customer or client, a prospective customer or client for whom you're about to do a presentation. And you really, you need the money right now. You're feeling some desperation. You need this to happen, okay? And so you go in there that way with that desperation, which they can, by the way, pretty much tell.
Smell it.
I mean, right? They can smell it, right? And but so you go in there and your goal is to get their money, is basically what it comes down to, okay? And so you ask questions, but you're not really listening to understand as much as you're listening to be able to sharp angle them into into buying from you. You kind of run through the questions instead of taking your time and really kind of getting an understanding. When they have a question or an objection, you answer it, but you're a little tiny bit defensive about it because, hey, this objection is standing in the way of my money that I need, right? And you're kind of trial closing and trying to get that sale closed throughout, right? Now, is this person more likely or less likely to buy from you right now? And the chances are they're less likely, right, to do that. Now, let's say you're the same person. You still need the money, right? You still are in that same financial position. But what you're going to do now, as we discussed earlier, is you're not going to deny your self-interest. You're not going to deny the truth of the situation, but you are going to temporarily suspend your self-interest. You're going to place it to the side. And you're going to go in there with the sole idea of bringing immense value to this person. So you go in there and you ask questions, but now you're really listening. And you're listening to understand. You're not judging. You're not listening with the idea of, okay, this is going to help me sell this product, because that's not what's going to help right now, okay? You're listening with the idea to totally understand their needs, wants, and desires. And even after they give you the information, unless you're absolutely sure from their viewpoint what they mean, you're going to go deeper. And you're going to ask for clarification, and you're going to make sure that you understand what they meant, and that what they meant is what you heard. And you're going to patiently. Now, when they have a question or an objection, you're going to welcome that. And knowing that often people have objections, that they'll kind of give objections that aren't the real objection, but it's often because they don't really understand the process themselves. They don't know the real root of it. And so they're kind of coming up with a knee-jerk sort of first thing. So what you're going to do is you're going to welcome it, and you're going to work with this person in order to get to the root cause of the objection and help them to see what it is as well as yourself. And then together, you're going to work through it patiently and with empathy in order to advance the process. Only after you know that you understand totally their needs, wants, and desires are you going to then connect the benefit of your product or service with those wants and needs. And then by the time you are ready to close or ask for the order, however you want to call it, that you're simply asking them to do something that they have already said that they want to do. You're just helping them to take action on it. Now, is that person more likely or less likely to want to buy from you right now?
It's going to be huge.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so when we go in just suspending that self-interest, we really create that much more benevolent context for success. And then you see, after a while, you don't have to suspend it, because not only does it feel so great to do business this way, but it's actually so much more profitable.
This is a 10-minute masterclass that you just went through there on sales. I'm gonna go back through and listen to this so that I can listen to it from a more poignant standpoint. But so that's huge, and that ultimately it is boiling down what you have in these books here. I can't stress enough. Everybody that's in business that I run into, I just say you got to read these books. It's a quick read. It's a quick read, and it's set up in a parable. So it's a story. It's not just there's some business books like you mentioned Psycho-Cybernetics, brilliant book. I'm partway through it, but that's a tough read.
You're reading it.
Yeah, it's a thick read. You've really got to immerse yourself in it. This is very actionable. I held up the wrong one, but both of them are very actionable parables, basically about Joe's life. So, can you walk through? I want to be respectful of your time here. Can you walk through the 5 laws of success that you talk about in the go-giver?
Sure. The first one's the law of value. And this one's all about, we say it's your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment, which sounds counterintuitive. Like you get, what, give more in value than I take in payment? I'll go bankrupt, right? So we just need to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's the dollar amount. Value is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something to the end user or beholder. What is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to that other person that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. It would be like hiring an accountant to do your taxes, and she charges you $1,000. That's her fee or her price, but the value she gives is much greater than that, because she saves you $5,000 on taxes. She saves you countless hours. She provides you and your family with the peace of mind and security of knowing it was done correctly. So she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 fee or price. She gave you more in value than she took in payment. And so you feel great about it. And she also made a very healthy profit, because it was worth it to her to exchange her time, her energy, her wisdom, her knowledge, her counsel, what have you, for that $1,000. But this happened because of her focus. Her focus was not on her fee. Her focus was on the exceptional value she was providing you. The fee was the result. This is why John and I say that money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder, if you will, to values lightning, right? Just simply meaning the value comes first. The money you receive is a very natural result of the value that you provided. Law number 2 is the law of compensation. This says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with that exceptional value, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. So your accountant in the last example did a great job for you, giving you more in value than she took in payment. The chances are great that you're very happy with her. You would use her services again, and you would refer her to others. Well, her other clients feel the same way about her. So our accountant is very quickly amassing an what we call an army of personal walking ambassadors singing her praises. And as she provides that kind of exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, her income will continue to grow and grow. One of the mentors in the story, Nicole Martin, the CEO, explained to Joe, the protege, that law number 1 represents your potential income, but it's law number 2, how many lives you impact, that represents your actual income. So we could say exceptional value plus significant reach equals very high compensation. Law number 3 is the law of influence. And the law of influence simply says that your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Again, sounds counterintuitive, right? Maybe even counterproductive or Pollyanna-ish, but that's not really it. Because, see, first of all, just to clarify, when we say place the other person's interests first, we're certainly not saying that you should ever be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. Here's what we mean. As Joe, the protege, learned in the story from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no faster, more powerful, or more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you and others than by genuinely moving from that I focus to that other focus, looking for ways to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win. You do that, and wow, what a difference maker that is. Law number 4, the law of authenticity, says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. Deborah Davenport was the mentor who shared that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are indeed very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself, day after day, week after week, month after month, the same way, where you consistently, right? People feel safe with you. People feel good about you. People feel comfortable with you. They know that that who they're seeing today is who they're always seeing, and there's trust baked into that consistency, and that comes with being authentic. Authentic should never mean that you don't keep improving. Okay, authenticity should never be used as an excuse for not growing. It does mean you use it to as a lever to continue improving yourselves and become the greatest version of your authentic self. And law number 5 is the law of receptivity. And this kind of brings it on home. It says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And this really means nothing more that, yeah, you breathe out, but you've also got to breathe in, right? You breathe out carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen. You breathe out, which is giving, you breathe in, which is receiving. Giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. They're not, as much of the world would have us believe, opposite concepts. You're either a giver or a receiver. Not at all. You're a giver and a receiver, but you know that the laws of life say that the giving comes first. We plant before we harvest, we sow before we reap, we give before we receive. So as you give value to the lives of many, many people, and you place their interests first, knowing that they're buying for their reasons, not your reasons, as you come at it from your authentic core and show up consistently the same way, what you've done is you've created what we call that benevolent context for your success and for you to receive. But you've got to make sure that you allow yourself to do so.
Oh, Bob, that's perfect. I could have listed off the laws, but I was like, I want to hear it from you. And we are, that 30 minutes went by really fast. So I want to wrap up by letting people know how they can get in touch with you. I know go find your books, but how is the best way for people to get in touch? And can you just quickly plug your mastermind that you're starting up as well?
Yeah, Burg.com, B-U-R-G, and we do have a mentorship community called the Go-Giver Success Alliance that will be starting in the next week. If you'd like to be contacted when we do that, go to burg.com and sign up, subscribe to our newsletter, and do that because you're going to get these great videos anyway on how to build your business, and they're free videos. But then you'll be notified when we're ready to start taking members.
I love it. Yeah. So go to burg.com. I'll drop the links here on YouTube and when the podcast goes live. But Bob, this has been an absolute honor for me. It just feels like I've come full circle. I mean, it's almost a year since I first contacted your works, and absolute pleasure. So we're gonna end the live here, and then if you can just stick around for a minute or so, and we can just wrap up off air, that'd be awesome.
Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you.